Agree with Alan Greenspan, we ought to just eliminate the debt ceiling. Oh, absolutely, we do.
The ability of almost every working American to access more credit than they should have been able to masked the underlying fact that lower and middle class incomes were not rising.
That's not a tenable strategy. Isn't now the time to eliminate it? Oh, we've been a long time ago.
Let's put aside terrorism. Let's talk only about our own homegrown animals that are patrolling America right now. So it goes down to the simplest thing. Be prepared, be vigilant.
So it looks like North Korea's launched another failed missile. And you can laugh at it, you can scoff at it. On my live show Wednesday night, I said it looked to me like they were a scared nation. They launch a third ballistic missile, whether we had something to do with it or not. It exploded shortly after firing. This is nothing new for them. They've been blowing up rockets over their country for a long time. And we live a very great distance away from them guys. They've got a lot of ground to cover if they want to threaten the, whatever. You know the deal. But the real issue is Tokyo's subways are being shut down, and Tokyo is terrified of what this rogue nation is capable of. And that's the truth. That is 100% the truth. And what I really like, I'll tell you what I really like. There's a lot of things that I like in the news today, and there's a lot of things that I don't like in the news and in life in general. But what I really like is Rex Tillerson coming out and telling the UN to get on the ball with North Korea and stop playing games. You know, it's clear when I see the UN, I see a group that is maybe kowtowing to China or what have you. But he comes out and he puts people on the hot plate, man. I like that, you know. I really like that. I listened to an interview with him a few days ago, and he was talking about how they're working towards a denuclearized North Korea. And that's the answer. That's the only answer for him. And having a guy like that, see, that's what's being lost in the Trump administration, because it's not perfect and some parts of it are terrifying and terrible. There's no getting around that. But there are some Rex Tillersons out there, and I know he's got oil money and he's a big business, oil salesman and banks and, New World Order and all the buzzwords. But he's getting things done, and he's doing it in the way that we need to get it done, in the way it wasn't done the last 8 years. Really the last 16 years, right? He's putting pressures on people. He's making people accountable. And he's putting clear goals out there. Not we're going to put troops on the ground and do this for this long and yada, whatever. So he comes out and he tells the UN, look, you got to be stronger. We got to sanction this country more. We got to hurt these people. We have to hurt these people in a way that doesn't involve bombs and weapons. And that's the solution everyone wants. Is that not the solution that everyone wants? Is there anybody out there who wants to launch rockets on North Korea and kill innocent people? But with a Trump administration, with a rich, domineering white male administration, it's going to be what it's going to be, right? It's going to be that whole, we can never do anything right. Right? You can never do anything all the way right. And in life, that's pretty impossible anyway. But I like Rex. And then Jeff Sessions comes out. You might hate him too. I don't know. I'm not particularly fond of any politicians, but I will tell you that when a guy comes out and tells the MS-13 gangs in America that we're coming for you, yeah, that makes me pretty happy. That makes me feel a lot safer, right? When you hear a guy come out and proclaim something that would never have been proclaimed long ago. We're coming for you. You're not going to destroy families and rip our nation apart. Of course. I'm a father of 2. That's exciting news for me. I don't want to worry about these gangs in my country. I don't want to worry about them. I don't want to worry about them scooping up my wife or something terrible happening because they think this is Mexico. No, this is not what this nation is about. And that's what we wanted. That's what people voted for, right? People voted for two reasons. For one, because the corruption level in Hillary was so terrifying that we couldn't imagine listening to the squawking for 4 to 8 years, right? We didn't want Bill back in there sexually harassing people. So we voted for Donald. A lot of people voted. Nobody wants to admit they voted, right? That's the weakness of America. Somehow the guy got in, and he got in pretty damn good, pretty damn comfortably, but nobody's going to, I didn't vote for him. No, not me. When you can easily say, or I did a write-in. Shut up, you idiot. I did a write-in. You didn't do a damn write-in. You voted for Donald Trump. You're just scared to say you voted for him. Why? Because people say, oh, God, you what? Oh, my God, you got to be kidding me. It is what it is, man. Anytime you lay yourself out on the line like that, you know you're opening yourself up to criticism. But you got to be able to survive that. So we have some people in the administration that are doing good things, right? Donald goes out and speaks to the NRA and speaks to the issues with the Second Amendment. It's good news. It's words, and words make a difference. I'll tell you that right now. You can't get around the fact that these are strong words coming out of the administration, and at least they put people in a position where you can hold them accountable. You know, you think Eric Holder would come out and do or say anything like a Rex Tillerson or a Jeff Sessions? You think that our president, Barack Obama, of 8 years past, would ever go to the NRA and even talk to them? Let alone come out and defend the Second Amendment? We watched that thing, man. That was a mess. That was a nasty mess. For 8 years, we were all scared. I always say it. One of my great lines about the president. He was the greatest guns and ammo salesman of all time. Period. I mean, that's factual. That's not even like a 1-2. That's not even like a jab cross on the president. When you look at the 8-year reign of Barack Obama, you will see that he was the greatest, and I mean the greatest, guns and ammo salesman of all time, history. I mean, I would say that he had to have rivaled the guns and ammo produced and sold in America for the World War II, probably. Just millions of guns sold annually. Every year, more guns sold in the year prior. More guns sold in the year prior. More guns. People were terrified. They looked at that guy, liberal and conservative. Let's be honest. They looked at that guy in the same way that there are conservatives who are terrified of Donald Trump. There were liberals who were terrified of Obama when it came to the Second Amendment. Because there's people out there who are progressive who understand, I want a gun. It's a very base thing, you know what I mean? I want a gun because I want to protect the people that I love. Because I know the police are only so effective. Because I know the world is only so stable. Because I know the president is the same guy from The Apprentice, or whatever it was. Was that a show, The Apprentice? I don't know. You look at these things, it's a very easy math problem, right? 1 + 1 + 1. Oh, okay, yeah, I need a gun. 1 + 1 + 1 equals I need a gun. 1 + 1 + okay. But now I have to give you the bad news. The bad news in regard to the administration, and there's a lot to go around, but this is the one that's affecting me the most. Because it's not a golf course, and apparently our president is a powerhouse at golf, which I don't know what that means. You know, that means different things to different people, right? That's something that some people can really rest their hat on. Our president is a great golfer. And that's, you know, something that other people really, who cares? But because it's not a golfing green, the president is making some hasty decisions about various public lands in our country. And that's a big, big issue to me and to people who listen to my show, to hunters, to outdoorsmen all over the country. And it should be a big issue to every human in America, every American citizen, let me put it that way. Reason being, we own land here in this nation. We are public land owners as American citizens. Whether you know it or not, whether you take advantage of it or not, Not really my problem. Ignorance is no excuse, right? But there are swaths of land in every state that if you own a hunting and fishing license, you can go and or if you get a permit, you don't have to own a hunting and fishing license, or if you get a permit, you can go and hang out on these lands. You can hunt them, you can fish them, you can camp on them for days at a time, right? You can do whatever you want. You can go just stare at the stars one night, watch the sunset, whatever. This is your land. This is your land. You can't build a house on it. You can build no permanent structure on it, but this is your land. It is your birthright as an American citizen, set aside by a great president and built upon by great presidents who understood the issues, right? And understood that human beings have greed. Americans have greed. Capitalism can be a bit destructive if you allow it to get out of hand and deregulate it completely, which is what you're seeing, right? There are marine habitats and protected marine areas in states like North and South Carolina that our president is going after in an attempt to open up offshore drilling to positively affect the economy in his mind. I understand where his mind is. And that's when you have to wrap your head around the fact that this is one person, it's one man. I'm not making excuses for him, I'm just being honest. It's a guy who doesn't understand the importance of public lands because he owns everything. He owns more land than you probably hunt on each year. And we've got to fight against that. Right? He's talking about giving states back rights to large swaths of national public lands. Right? Protected forests, things like that. And that's an issue. That's an issue because then these things can get bought up. They can get sold. They can get fracked on, which we can't afford. We can't afford the fracking on these protected lands. Things go wrong. There's no getting around it. Things go really wrong. They go really bad. And this is a war. You know, this is a war that's going to have to be fought at the political level, you know, at the representative level. But we need to focus on it. And I say it because I know that a lot of my audience are people who voted for the guy. My audience is heavy on people who either voted for him or voted libertarian or maybe did a write-in. And that's a big deal. You know, that's a very big deal. We cannot lose the land that belongs to us. We cannot let a government sell our land because that's what they'd be doing. If you don't understand the process, so because you may not take advantage of the public lands. Each state has well, not every state, but a lot of states have national forests and national lands that are protected by the federal government. Right? And then states also have lands that are protected by their Department of Game and Inland Fisheries, public lands that belong to you. Yes, they belong to you. You can't sell them, you can't build permanent structures on them, but you can visit them anytime you like, and as long as you abide by regulations that are put in place in order for silly ass people to not ruin the land for other people. I mean, let's be honest, that's what regulations are for. When you look at these regulations in wildlife management areas and state and national forests, you can quickly understand, okay, this is so an idiot doesn't burn down the forest. Or, okay, this is so an idiot doesn't build a giant or put a trailer on this part of the where the good rainbow trout fishing hole is. He doesn't put up a permanent structure. So the state monitors some of those lands and takes care of them, and they also take care of the national forests as well. But the national forests are protected by the federal government. But they're a massive resource. And what Donald Trump is going to look to do, and what hunters always worry about and outdoorsmen always worry about, are governments that come in and decide to do things with these lands, right? Not what they're meant for. You know, there's a lot of oil under that national forest. There's a lot of minerals in that national forest. That type of thing. Logging, those things. That stuff's all protected. You know, it's all protected. Your land is protected. But if, say, in Virginia, the national forest was to get clipped at the Virginia border, right? I think it extends over to West Virginia and maybe south to North Carolina. I don't know if it goes north to Maryland. I don't think so. But anyway, if it was to get clipped at the Virginia border and Donald Trump were to say, okay, this is part of Virginia now, well, then those stringent regulations that are on that land could be lessened. And someone in the state of Virginia could say, well, maybe we'll just trim down the size of this public land a little bit and take advantage of these outskirts. Or maybe there's something in the heart of this public land, so we'll change the layout. And we'll still offer hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of acres. But maybe we'll do this, this, and this. And then you know how things like that go, right? It's an erosion, right? It's like a rust hole in the hood of your car. If you don't take care of it, it's just going to eat away at the whole car, and before you know it, the public lands will be gone in 20 years. It's just a fact. And you know, I'm not pandering. It's just what it is. There are some things, and I've said this before on the show, where you can't even let the foot in the door. And when it comes to your land, this is your land. You might not fish, you might not hunt now. But it's like the great president said when he put in place the idea of national forests. He said that these lands were put in place for the unborn. And that president was Theodore Roosevelt, the man who, God, so prescient, you know what I mean? The understood conservation, understood the greed of the common man, and what could come of a nation as beautiful as this had we not put some protections in place. You know, and that's the argument you can give to the capitalist. The overwhelming libertarian style capitalist who believes that there should be no regulations and total freedom. Well, you know, look at the ocean and let's talk about no regulations. What would we have? I mean, there are very little regulations on the ocean and fishing and pollution as is. But now imagine a libertarian society devoid of regulations and free market. See, what you have to remember is that we're just monkeys. You have to remember that, right? That's hard for the super Christian because they don't want to believe it. They don't want to believe that we came from monkeys. But we're just apes, man. When there's resources, we grab them. And we'll grab them up and chomp them up in our little clans until there's nothing left. You know, until there's nothing left. As long as there's a penny to be made, we'll cut down trees, we'll do this, we'll do... So that's why the regulation exists and why Theodore Roosevelt made one of the great decisions in American history to protect those lands. And now it's your job to follow up and to make sure that this president doesn't go off the rails and cut those tens of thousands of protected acres down, probably more than that, you know, and limit what our future generations have to hunt on, to fish on, and to appreciate what the natural world is like. So that's my opening monologue. I hope you enjoyed it. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back. I want to talk about bluegill fishing and life expectations. And of course, you know, we'll drift in and out of those topics pretty easily, but I want to talk about bluegill fishing and life expectations right after this. So bluegill fishing, you've got to excuse me. I'm coming off of, it's been a wild day. I'm coming off of an 8-hour serve safe training that I conducted early this morning, and which is National Food Safety Accreditation training that I am an approved proctor and instructor in. I don't do it. It's not something I hardly ever do, but my great employer of the past asked me to come in and do it, so gladly obliged. People were great to me for many years. I took a trip over to the brewery out back and sat down with a good friend of mine for a while. We had a drink. And life just keeps getting better. You know what I mean? That's how it goes when you look at it the way I look at it. But bluegill fishing. Bluegill fishing. When you need a pause, when you need a break. You know, one of the ways that I can do what I do for a living, the tremendous amount of content, if you only knew the thousands of words, the tens of thousands of words I write in a week for the survival community and survival clients on a whole. And what it takes to get in that mindset. What am I writing about? I'm writing about the end. I'm writing about times that are terrible. I'm writing about how to survive those times. I'm writing about the things that one should do. You know, the stuff can wear on you, which is why sometimes you need to put a bobber on a line, you know, with about a 16th ounce or a 32nd ounce jig head hook and a minnow, and you need to take that thing out to the local pond and sit out there with your son and catch bluegills. Catch sunfish. You might call them sunnies, you might call them red ears, you might call them whatever. Pumpkin seeds, any number of things that you call a sunfish in your area. I call them bluegills. I grew up calling them bluegills my whole life. Doesn't matter what it was a bluegill, right? That's what me and my dad called them anyway. And we went out last night. It was a sweltering night, just the way I like it, man. Sweltering, right? Sweat running down my back, standing at the pond bank, flipping the bait out, watching my son cast. My son, man, when he hits it, when he can cast, he casts so good. It's so great to watch. Watching my son cast a line and just going, it's so good. You know what I mean? It's so good right now. And enjoying the pond and the fishing rod. And I've got to say, it was a hell of a break. Because I have a problem. I have a serious fishing problem. You know, I come from a lineage of fishermen who have accomplished incredible things. And when you're up against that, you feel the anxiety to perform, right? Sort of like a Cesar Chavez Jr., to use a boxing analogy, right? Julio Cesar Chavez's son came up in the boxing ranks, and he just wasn't the man his father was. He didn't have the discipline his father had. He didn't have where he really struggled was he didn't have the technique that his father had and the willpower. His father was such a calculated boxer. He was this bulldog, but not to a fault. Incredible body puncher, short, tight guard. You know, I mean, he did amazing things. I mean, he devastated people, and it was so fun to watch. And his son came out and he understood. I am the lineage of the greatest Mexican boxer of all time. That's what I am. That's who I am. In my opinion. I mean, that's what I would say. If you asked me about Julio Cesar Chavez, that's what I would say. The greatest Mexican boxer of all time. And I feel like you can get crippled by that pressure sometimes. And I have a lot of those days when I'm out fishing, you know, and I gotta catch the big bass today. Today, the sun's out, it's springtime, the spawn is on, I've got to catch that big bass today. And sometimes you get so wrapped up in those expectations in life, man, that you don't enjoy it. You know, you get to the point where you realize the expectation is overshadowing the joy of this life right now. Why is that happening? And you find yourself struggling against a wonderful hobby that you most of the time enjoy, right? And I've had fishing trips like that. And that's never what it's been about. It's never been about that. All the times I've walked up and down the creek with my father, it's never been about that. But you get to a certain age where you look for meaning in things. You look for, you'd get hungry about proving yourself. Even though I've caught big fish and I've had great outings, and it's nothing I haven't done. But I've always been one who likes to impress people. And getting out there yesterday with the minnow and the bobber and catching big, beautiful bluegills. Nothing that's going to make the cover of Field and Stream. Not on a fly rod, but just on an old open face spinning reel. Tri-lean 4-pound test. Low vis green. 32nd ounce jig head. Gulp minnow. Bobber. Watching the joy in my son's face, man, when that bobber would sink and he was reeling in another one. Reeling in another one, reeling in another one, reeling in another one. I mean, he probably caught 20 fish yesterday in an hour, you know what I mean? And then we took off and went and got something to eat. And it was just a beautiful thing. It was a beautiful slow it down moment in life. You get so few of them. The life that we live, where we're constantly running, constantly diving, constantly shucking and jiving. You have those few moments in life where you can go, oh, you know what? Oh, I got to slow down. I got to slow down. And at one point I just said, you know what? When I first got there, I saw bass in the water. I'm not going to lie to you. I saw fish in the water, and I got crazy about it. I saw the tail of giant bass swimming in the water. And I said, oh, God, I got to get one of those things. And that crazy fever started to take over. If there are fishermen out there listening, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The fever started to take over. And then after a while, I started to think about my father. And you know what would happen? This was a great lesson in fishing that I learned from my dad. When I used a bobber, right, and a worm when I was little, we usually used mealworms. If I had a bobber and a rooster tail jig on and a worm, a mealworm, you know what my dad fished with? A bobber and a rooster tail jig and a mealworm. And one of the great things about my father on the creek was that he didn't care. He didn't care about taking pictures of fish on a cell phone. He didn't care about, going into work or going this place or that place and talking and bragging about what he caught. No, he fished just like me. He fished just like the little 5-year-old, the little 8-year-old that he was with. And we caught fish, and it leveled the playing field for a little guy like me to where I felt like, oh, look, I'm doing what Dad does. It didn't put Dad on this pedestal, right? Oh, I'm using a bobber and my dad's using it. So after a while, I did the same thing. I said, all right, yeah, I'm gonna put the bobber on. I said, let me take a couple casts with that bobber. And before I knew it, we're both catching bluegills and we're both having a good time. And then you come to that realization. And you get back to the reason you started to go fishing from the get-go, right? When you started fishing, when you were obsessed with fishing, when you didn't want to do anything but go fishing. It wasn't about inches. It wasn't about girth. It wasn't about pounds. It was about getting out. It was about getting out. Whatever happened, happened. It was about getting out in the sun. It was about trying new baits. It was about casting into those old holes that you haven't casted into in a while and seeing what comes out. The problem with me is I've had such success for so long that I struggle with downtimes. My father and I fished holes so consistently that we became just magicians. You know what I mean? We went to these spots and we went to them all summer long. And we knew every crack and every crevice and every spot a fish would be. And we were so efficient that when I hit these dead air spots, these spots where I'm trying new things in bigger bodies of water where fish are more spread out, I get a little crazy. And I get to the point where I'm like, what am I doing this for? I need to be successful. I need more success on the water. Like I'm in the Bassmasters tournament or something. But then you get out there with your 5-year-old and he smacks you in the face with reality and with the idea of what expectations should really be. Oh, yeah, that's what this is. That's what this life is about. This life isn't about anything but enjoying the time that you have on this spinning ball, right? Especially when there's a rod in your hand and a child at your side. It's not about catching a wall mount. It's not about impressing your child. You know, you get to that mindset, right? Oh, I just want to haul one of these big fish in so Carter can see it. And he'll know then that his daddy is the man. The ego, you know what I mean? The ego takes over. And then you realize, wait a second. This guy doesn't care. This kid doesn't care what I've done or haven't done or what I do today. He wants to have a good time. He wants his dad to be proud of him. And he wants to have fun. And I'm telling you this because when you focus on that, everything clears up. Everything just clears up, you know, and you get to the point where it's like, oh, God, how wrong have I been? How the hell wrong have I been? And that's what it is. When I talk about bluegill fishing, it's a segue into what kind of expectations we put on our life. You know, what kind of expectations are we putting on ourselves and why? Some expectations are great, right? To stay healthy, to eat healthy, to work out, to be honest, to be thoughtful, to be careful, to be nice to people. These are expectations that are great. We put expectations on other people to do the same to us, right? But what type? I challenge you to take a look at your life and look at the expectations that you've levied on yourself and say, what is this? What is this thing? What is this that I'm doing? What am I trying to do here? I mean, what am I really trying to do here? What are these crazy expectations that I've come up with that really don't change my life for the better at all? You know, I can catch a 20-inch smallmouth, and you know what that'll do for my life? Yeah, I'll put a couple on the wall, probably. I'll have some good conversations with Dad. My son might, you know, like to poke him in the eye when I bring him home. But at the end of the day, what? What is that going to do for me in the grand scheme? So when I go to the James River, it's not about, let me catch this big giant fish. The expectation becomes, let's have a ball, man. Let's relax. Let's let this sun soak into our flesh. Let's let this cool water rush over our skin. Let's flip this popper out next to this bubble line here and see if we can't get something to come up and hit it. And whether that something be a bluegill, whether that something be a big old gnarly catfish or a giant smallmouth, we're living. We're enjoying this ride. I can't tell you how important that is. I can't tell you how important it is to take a look at the expectations in your life and sort them out today. Sort them out today to find out, am I doing this thing right? You know, what are the expectations that I hold myself up to? What are the necessary ones? What are the unnecessary? Why am I fighting the current on certain issues that have no effect on me? Because there's a lot of people in this world, man, I have to tell you. There's a lot of people in this world that are spinning their tires for no good reason at all. Honestly. They're spinning their tires for no good reason at all. Just so that they can say they did something or do something or whatever it is. And I don't want you, a listener to the I Am Liberty Show, to be one of those people. I want you to live life full of purpose and fill every moment of your life with the things that you love and enjoy. Every moment that you can, you know? That's my wish for the folks who listen to this show. And that's really all I've got, folks. End of the month show. I thought I'd give you one last shot before we stroll into May. All right? Thank you so much for everything, guys. Thank you so much for everything. What can I say? What can I say? We're going to have another great month of downloads this month. And what else is there in this life, right? Nothing. Who cares? We've got a great listener base that enjoys the show, comes to the live show every week, and you know what? I'm a happy man, and I thank you for that.